I've clicked the button. Button's been clicked. All right. Hi, everyone. See folks coming in here. Give everyone a minute. Hi, Kim. Welcome.
Hi.
To our chaos.
I have contributed to it. I'm so sorry for terrifying you. And I'm so glad you texted me because, yeah, I thought it was starting at noon. That's in 2 hours.
Like you said, it's kind of the perfect start to this. This is like the perfect.
I'm neurodivergent.
Hi, everyone. Time zones are hard.
They are. Can you hear me okay? Do I need to set up a different microphone?
No, you're perfect.
Okay. Ray's here. Hi, Ray. I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this chat. We're going to go ahead and get started as you all file in. It is super exciting to see everyone. I am super excited to be here and going to introduce, although I don't really need to, but Rachel, our director, is here. Love you always. She is a phenomenal director, is always here for us. And we were just backstage talking about how much of a community we all are and how much we all uplift each other. And she's the one who leads that all. So, and Kim Rhodes is here. Hi, Kim. Welcome. Do you want to say hi? Tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yes. Today, yeah. I mean, yeah. Hi.
Perfect.
Kim is like one of the human beings I love most in the world. I want to just give an honest, rather than like, here's the awesome resume, which is of course really amazing and impressive. But like for me, it's just there's like I don't know how to describe what it is to have the kind of supportive friendship that I'm lucky enough to have with Kim. So she's just an amazing human being, and I'm so grateful she's here.
I love you so much.
No one better to have this conversation, because really, Kim, like we've been having this conversation for years.
Before I knew I was autistic.
Yeah.
Like even before I had a diagnosis, we've talked about neurodivergence and in general disability. I do think, did you plan this for April? Autism acceptance?
Yeah, we planned it, actually. It was like set for March, and I just said, well, it's really close, can we just move it a month, since we've got
my original date was I think last weekend, and then we were like, let's just shift it a little bit. So yeah, ended up working out really well. Good move, Rachel.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the beginning of this event first.
Oh, you just went on mute, I think.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So fostering neurodiversity, the reason why I chose this title is because I don't want this event to be focusing on, specific diagnosis. This is about everybody who falls under this umbrella, and it's a very large one. I myself I'm diagnosed with ADHD. I probably have a number of other things going on up there as well. And I really wanted to do an event where we talk about how to create a community that is supportive of everybody, regardless of what they may need in terms of accommodation. So that's kind of what I really want to hit on, is how do we create an inclusive space that doesn't make people feel like they are bad for needing accommodation. Everybody needs accommodation, regardless of whether you're neurodivergent or not. Everybody needs something in their life to make their life a little bit easier. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And the first question I'm going to kind of segue us into is, I want to talk about the misconceptions of neurodivergency first, and kind of talk about, what are some things that are especially common these days. I think that there's been an uptick in the way that people are speaking negatively about other people. And I think that things that were a little bit less common are becoming a little bit more common now, which is deeply unfortunate. So I'm just going to kind of open-end question, what are some of the misconceptions that you feel that you've heard and that you want to kind of make sure that people understand the reality of the situation for?
Wow, that's a good one. I do want to preface this by saying I am, for those who don't know, late diagnosed, cis female, heterosexual, middle-aged, high masking, generally low support needs, autistic ADHD. I only speak from my experience. So I am still learning, I'm still growing, and probably everything I say, someone in the audience will have an opposite. There's someone who will have the opposite experience. So I only feel comfortable speaking to my experience and what I've observed overall. But in terms of your question, the first thing that I wish were addressed is, if you can, then you should. There is this, I had a long conversation with someone. If I am capable of performing an action, making eye contact, getting you called back, answering the phone when you call without texting, if I am capable of it, and it would make you more comfortable if I do it, then I should. That neurodivergence is, no, these people actually can't. So if you can, you're not neurodivergent. You're just having feelings that are uncomfortable and you should get over them. I have a really hard time with that one, because the fact that I can is rooted in trauma. It is rooted in fight or flight. It is a defense mechanism. And I think if we started allowing people to function instead of simply react, that would be a beautiful evolution. And the second thing that I want to address is that accommodations are not slices of pie. Like, in this day and age right now, there's this feeling that if I have what I need to be okay, that someone else will have to sacrifice what they need to be okay. That if I am given an accommodation, someone else will suffer, because it's always this two-way street. And what I love to point out is that when I actually get what I truly need, like, I'm sure we'll get into this later on when we talk about what is the need versus what is the thing I've assigned to meeting my need. But when I get what I truly need, I am full. And then I can fill your cup. Then I can help you. Then when everyone is functioning at peak capacity, everyone is served. It isn't a matter of, well, now my kid can't get what she needs because she's dyslexic, and you took the piece of pie over there for your autism twitchies, and what the fuck. So, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go for it.
So that is the other misconception, that the resources we're now, true, financial resources are limited, but so much of what I think is needed to elevate everyone's experience and to foster neurodiversity doesn't actually take money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes
I'm sorry. I just want to preface this whole conversation with the fact that I'm going to try not to heart explode over all of you and just like have words randomly come out, because this topic means so much to me. And I think everyone on staff knows it, but it's because I love this staff so completely. And we talk about this all the time, that like exactly the points you're making. One, trying to make a safe space where everyone can communicate their actual needs, how we can work best, not just like what you absolutely need or you're not going to survive at all, but like, how are you going to work best? How can we sustain? How can we make this as comfortable and happy a space as possible for everyone? And it's really hard because most of us are wired into thinking that's not a possibility. And if we dare say what we actually need, we're going to be penalized. So I know it's taken many staff members years to get comfortable saying, actually, this is how I work best.
Yeah.
But when we do that, we all benefit. And again, as you said, it not only doesn't take away from, it adds to other people's experience. One, you can be there and show up for them so much more. and more honestly, but also every time you speak honestly about how you experience the world, you make it a safer space for others to do the same.
Yes.
I don't personally, and maybe it's just because of my own viewpoint and experience, I don't personally really buy into neurotypical because I've never met someone who that's a typical person. I think some of us are better at masking and like kind of fitting in, and some of us aren't, but most of us just have different diversity of needs. And so I just want to make a space where no one has to bring in a doctor's note and say, this is why I need this thing. But actually, the policy at Random X is, if you say you need a night off because you need a night off, fine. You don't have to give us more explanation because I trust you. And because we have that system, people work harder, they show up more. It's the opposite effect of what we're trained to be afraid of, which is that then people are going to take advantage and it's all going to fall apart. It's like, no, when we're honest about who we are and what we need, and we have a space where we can be that, we want to be in that space. I know I do, and the staff is amazing at supporting me, as you have done for years, Kim. And I'll explain. I am undiagnosed, but anytime I've taken a test, I test very positively as autistic. And but I believe that I learned to mask very early on is one of the reasons I became an actress, because I love to study what humans do and how they human, because it didn't make any sense to me. So I was always trying to understand. And Kim was my translator, my social translator for years. And I just can't thank her enough, because there was many times I'd say, why are people, I don't understand social lies. I don't understand a lot of social things that come naturally to people. And so I was always turning to Kim and going, why is this happening? Why are people doing this? And she would translate for me. So I just am grateful for that. And then I try to create that kind of space for everyone else in return. So
I love it. We have a thing called you're not diagnosed, but you're peer reviewed. So I mean,
That's amazing.
I had an experience at a convention once where 4 kids in full, it wasn't a creation, it was like 4 kids in full cosplay approached, and they were like, mom, we're neurodivergent, we're ought to get, and then the number 3 in the row was like, well, I'm not. And I was like, okay. And the other 3 were kind of like, yeah, she's not. And so then we started talking, and number 3 is like, hang on a second, I have to get my pad. And she pulls out a pad and she goes, this is the blue pad where I write down things people have said. And I just went, are these your best friends? She goes, yes. I said, they're all autistic? She said, yes. I said, and you have a blue pad specifically for things that people have written down that you need to remember? And she goes, yes. I said, I have some news for you. And they all lost it. They're like, we've been telling her she's been peer reviewed for months.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
It's funny because my friends and I we've passed around the RADSAR quiz many a time in our, I think it's just a thing that we run in packs.
Yes, poorly organized, chaotic packs.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And
you kind of answered my next question, Rachel, which is like, why is this so important to you? Why specifically fostering neurodiversity? That part, what part of the inclusion is so important to you? Why do you believe that this is something that we need across the board?
Well, something I'd like people to understand as well is this is not about being, I don't know, a lot of people will say, oh, it's what you have to do to be politically correct or to be acceptable or whatever. And I want to say, actually, it's what you should do if you want to have a successful group, if you want to do better in the world. The fact that we have such a diverse group benefits us every day in everything we do, and we literally can't do it without that. one of the things about having that diversity, and people especially who've fallen outside the perceived norm a lot of the time are even better at this, which is they've learned to better listen, to understand, to realize that other people don't necessarily work the way they do, and therefore they are so much more valuable in group discussions, in the work that we're doing, in being able to figure out how we better work in the world. And so creating a space where people can work with whatever their needs are, to whatever will help them to thrive the most, is actually completely beneficial to us. The us being whoever is running a group, a company, you name it, whatever activity you're doing. So like, we're losing out if we don't create a space that's really inclusive. And again, as I say, I believe in it not being about labels, and not being about a space that, like, per the doctor's recommendations, we create a space that has X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, let's like keep listening. It's daily work of let's listen to each other and find out what is needed. And the majority of the work is, how do we create a space that's safe enough that people can communicate what their needs are. So I hope, again, so many thoughts on this subject that I don't know if I'm never gonna get everything in, but I hope that touches on some of why this is so important from my point of view.
Yeah, awesome. Kim, any thoughts?
I think you said something really important, Rachel, and like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it is not, oops, there it went, the wrong word came in, infinite was the word that came in, and I have to say it before they get, it is not integral to just divergent people for inclusiveness. It is not, you're not doing us a favor by letting us sit at the table. Everyone's being done a favor. And it is because an environment of safety serves everyone. And if we are judging, othering, separating, all comes out of an inherent feeling that I'm not safe. So you have to be the enemy. You have to be different. You have to be. And when someone simply comes along and says, no, actually, everybody's safe here, everyone is served by that feeling. And again, going back to that, no, we're creating an environment of safety. We aren't creating an environment of who has and who doesn't, of who fits and who doesn't, of who it is. When I don't identify as gay, as queer. However, when I am in an environment that is actively queer friendly, I feel safer, because the environment is created with safety in mind. So that is the same thing, I think, with neurodivergence. If we are creating an environment where we are all encouraged to feel and foster safety, then that serves everybody. This isn't just a matter of like, let's help the weirdos over here feel less weird. No, let's remind each other that we're actually safe and we can have our needs met.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the equality versus equity type thing, where it's not, it's about evening the playing field so everyone is at the same level, instead of, I think people fundamentally they conflate the two, which is understandable. And equity is everyone gets what they need to be on the same level. Equality is just giving out the same thing across the board, and that's not helpful. Everyone needs different things. So I think for sure agree with everything that you guys just said.
And I will just add to, like, so there's a very human thing, I think, to evaluate like where you sit on the hierarchy. Like with every person you meet, like, are they prettier than me, or are they more successful, are they smarter, or are they whatever? And I really believe that whole way of thinking is completely invalid, because we're all just kind of like created completely differently. I think I was saying to Maddie the other day, it's more like in a symphony or something, trying to compare the violin to like the clarinet or whatever. It's like, no, they each have to be 100% what they are, and they're not at all the same. And this song wouldn't happen if not for all those sounds that each of these people can make. So I think it's more like that. And I don't, so I don't think any of us takes away from someone else. I think the more where we start to foster a space where we can be open and communicate about the fact that we're different, the more we learn. That's one thing I learned about from having a seeable disability, but by being in a wheelchair, people were more honest with me about the fact that like they don't feel like they're half their life totally together, or this thing is going wrong or whatever, because there's something like you don't hit the markers of like being a perfect person, and you're not like you obviously are failing in some areas. You don't have that whole walking thing down, so you probably will be forgiving about the fact that I'm also failing in some areas. And I think we need, like, it made me realize, wow, we really need honest spaces where we can all talk about the fact that we're just experiencing life, and we're having all different ways of viewing it, experiencing it, and then not putting it through that filter of like, but this is socially acceptable, so now I will present this to you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. We have some really great questions in the chat, so I think I'm gonna jump to the Q&A portion too, because we have some really great ones in the actual Q&A box. And I'm gonna start with, I love this question. Put it up. I'm a human resources professional, and I would love to understand what steps employers can take to ensure an inclusive environment that creates a feeling of safety and belonging for our neurodivergent colleagues. That is an amazing question. Go for it.
I wanted to bring this up. I have learned that the way I process expectations is the way an AI processes expectations. I don't have a natural awareness of what is expected of me. However, at any given moment, probably at least 15% of my mental energy is spent trying to figure out what the expectations are. And in the old me, before I understood this about myself, how to meet those expectations, because it was just assumed if you had expectations, I had to meet them. One of the most important things I'm recognizing is never assume that I will make the assumption you intend. A lot of workers are accused of being unmotivated or not intelligent, or because you give me information and I'm supposed to know what to do with it. I don't. I understand you expect me to do something with it, but if you don't make your expectations clear, I need you to call me back by this time. I need you to, and a lot of people will be like, but that's their job to figure out. No, that's ableism. It's not my job to read your mind. It's not my job to read your mind. So setting down, I need this, this, and this. My sister is, she is a postdoctorate and she runs a cancer research lab, and she has neurodivergent people working with her. And so she has asked me how she can foster a more inclusive environment, because they're amazing individuals, but then also come into work in a 2-hour window. And I was like, have you told them you need to come in a 10-minute window? She's like, oh, okay. All right, great. Like, I understand your need for flexibility, but I also need and here's why. That's the other thing, is that it's considered so disrespectful when I ask why. When my child asks why, how come, why? I need to know to cement, to move from brainy thinky into body doey. I can't make that leap. Just because you tell me to do it, I'm actually incapable until I either invent a reason for myself, which sometimes is wrong, or you say, here's my intention. Here's how I believe that intention will be met. Here's your part in it and what I expect of you.
I'm so grateful that you addressed this, Kim, because that is probably the thing we've been asked the most, and really, like me, when I say we, it's like me and the other management and the stuff. I've really had to learn this, that there's so many of our staff members who it's so helpful to have everything written out, and not only that, like give the schedule ahead of time, give every bit of like, this is what to expect when you show up at this meeting. This is exactly what's going to be look like. This is exactly what you need to be do. And really give like as much pre-understanding as possible. It's so calming. It's such a nice thing. I know I actually do well with that, but I've spent years going, I have to figure that all out ahead of time. So I'm always asking for as many clues as possible. And then I stress, like calculate and strategize ahead of time of like 7 different scenarios. And then I prepared for all of them. And it's like, no, we could take all of that out if we just tell people ahead, this is what is expected of you.
Because
Yeah.
then you will find us so motivated,
Yeah.
so present, and also you will cut down. Now I understand that from the management point of view, it's like, well, then I sacrifice my freedom, and what if I don't want to, and what if I don't know, and that's harder for me. It might be harder, but you're going to get so much better results.
Yes.
Your meeting that takes an hour and a half will take 15 minutes because we're like, here's my contribution, here's my understanding, you don't have to fucking worry about my feelings. You don't have to motivate me by, yay, we're you just be like, I expect this of you. Here's how I want you to do it. Great, done, gone.
And there's so much, like, that's the thing, is like, I cannot describe how much benefit, because it's not just like, it took 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes of absolute brilliance because everyone showed up 100% and could bring their full self and their full brain, because so much of our brain gets hijacked to the anxiety of trying to recalculate constantly of what's going on and how do I understand this and what do I make of this. And it's so nice to have a space of any of us, and I do it all the time, and say, I don't understand that. Why that just happened? Why are we doing this? Okay, that's cool. But I'm missing something. And just having the freedom to do that.
If you've already created an environment where we know our needs are met and we feel safe, then you don't have to waste time petting me and telling me I'm pretty to inspire me. You don't have to worry about, once I'm safe, you don't have to worry about my feelings. And I know that's weird for Queen of Feels over here to say, but once I'm safe, wouldn't that be nice to not have to worry about how I feel?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love, that's certainly what I've experienced. But also I do have to have that conversation with managers all the time of, did you actually say that? Did you, like, can you show me the email that you sent? Actually, if I read that email, I don't necessarily see the point where you, like, there's a certain mental leap that has to happen that you wouldn't necessarily have. Like, so I could see walking away with a different interpretation. And I think we always have to, any of us has to, and again, it's not just about what diagnosis someone has. It's that we all process differently. And that's why I say it's so important to look for those places where assuming stuff is understood, where it might not be. How explicitly have you said it, and how many ways that might communicate to different people? And then I will say another, to this question, another thing that is really, really helpful is put things in as many formats as possible. Different people process differently and prefer different ways of processing. And so, if you need an audio file, as well as, have it in writing, as well as have a video or whatever, we tend to, like, that's one thing we've learned in Random Access, put it in as many different ways as possible and give people options. And again, don't make that something you just have to request because you have special needs, but like that should be available to anyone. because we're all going to need different things processing wise.
I think that brings up an excellent, again, back around to this question that I promise, Maddie, I'll let you get to a different question. But one of the hardest things back when I thought I was neurotypical, and it was very obvious that my daughter was autistic, I had to look at my own expectations. And those are it is so hard. And I think it's very challenging. Something as simple as my actions are interpreted as a reflection of my values. Well, you didn't call me back in a timely manner, and that must mean you don't care about me. You didn't know what I wanted for my birthday, so that must mean you don't love me. You didn't know. And it's very important to have a relationship with a neurodivergent person that is happy, to recognize when I am assuming that because I sent a memo out, you all processed it. That's actually an assumption. Now you can stand by it. You can say, I send memos, your job to figure out how they get but admit you're doing it.
Yeah.
Just be aware of when you're making an assumption that I should make eye contact with you because then you feel like I'm listening. Just be aware of your own inherent, and I'm not going to call it names. I'm not going to think you're a bad person. We're just learning that a lot of times what we assume is how everybody does it is exactly that. It's an assumption.
And again, that's true for any kind of diversity, because that's I'm constantly having a conversation with staff members because we have an international staff. We've got people from all over the world with all different methods of doing stuff. It's so easy to go like, well, this is how you fill out this form. And it's like, yeah, but it's not how you fill out the form in the UK, or it's not how you do it. Like, or, again, time zones are different. Socioeconomic situations are different. Weather's different. Like there's so many things that it's so easy to have these conversations where like everyone experiences this way. No. And so, and again, to bring it to the work that Random Acts does, it's so easy to assume we know what is kindness for someone. And we can go so far off because what a person actually needs differs entirely depending on that person and their community and their way of interpreting the world. What is considered good for one person is bad for another. So you need to be able to listen. Like, to me, that is the most crucial thing when it comes to any of this, is to not assume and to listen.
Yeah. I agree. There's so many questions. Y'all came ready. We are probably not gonna be able to get through all these. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna combine a couple of them because I see a bunch of people asking about something that I actually did want to touch base on, which is the, I'm gonna just pick one. There we go. Sometimes it is difficult for people to understand / validate my neurodivergent needs because I don't have an official diagnosis. What are some ways to help people understand when you don't have a doctor's note? And this is super important for me. I am very much pro self-diagnosis with the way that the medical system is set up right now and the kind of unfortunate stigma that comes around some certain diagnoses. And I think there's also this misconception that when people self-diagnose, it's because they are looking to have a patch on their shoulder. When in reality, self-diagnosis comes because people are looking for how to understand themselves. People are looking to figure out what can I do that would make my life easier on me? And when I started looking into accommodation for autistic people, I purchased noise canceling headphones because I read that would help. And all of a sudden, I was able to be calm in crowded areas, and it helped me. And that's the extent of what self-diagnosis can do for you. It doesn't get you official doctor's privileges, and it doesn't carry that stigma attached to it that an official diagnosis unfortunately comes from, which is why I think it's an important thing. But also on the flip side, unfortunately, you do sacrifice the legal side of things for that. So what advice do you have for that, for people who want to have others understand without having an official diagnosis?
I want to quick go back. What do you mean by sacrifice the legal side of things?
In terms of legal accommodation, if you were
okay,
yeah.
I thought, I was like, because as of right now, ADA is pretty clear that just because I have an autism diagnosis, they can't take my child away from me.
Yeah. The more of like,
okay,
if you're self-diagnosed, you can't access any benefit.
Yes, that's okay. I'm going to say this and I'm going to clap at the same time. Diagnosis is a privilege.
Yep.
It is a fucking privilege. I don't like the fact, and I love the doctor that diagnosed me. I was able to afford a diagnosis. I lived someplace where I had access to a diagnosis. I had a doctor, and this is also unusual, who diagnosed my experience, not my presentation. We are still at the point where diagnoses are being made, where people are confusing behavior with symptoms. They're not the fucking same thing. Again, just because I make eye contact doesn't make me less autistic than someone who doesn't make eye contact. But also, just because I can clearly, the fact that I can output information that is here in my, now everyone assumes that's the same rate that I can receive information. I can't. I'm in the 50th percentile for processing information. But I don't appear autistic because my superpower is actually fucking communicating. So the move towards experiencing neurodivergence, being dominant, whereas perceiving neurodivergence is what, like, why do we need neurotypical validation for being neurodivergent? What? It's still just reinforcing ableism to demand a fucking diagnosis. Nevertheless, I felt much more comfortable because of my internalized ableism, claiming my autism and my ADHD, owning my neurodivergence once I got a diagnosis.
And I want to say it's also a privilege to not have to diagnose, which is something I've experienced because I am in a situation, being in the job I'm in and stuff, where I get to help create the space and don't have to answer to a bunch of people where I have to bring in a doctor's note and say, this is why I need these things. Instead, I can say, I'm lucky enough to get to be publicly vulnerable as someone in quote leadership and say, no, this is why I insist that other people have this experience. And so what I'm advocating for is not something that exists, unfortunately, everywhere, which is that I love creating a space where we don't need a diagnosis, where none of us needs a reason why, where we just trust each other enough that to say, this is what helps me. Because I also, so my personal life experience, again, was I ever diagnosed? No. Could I mask really well? Absolutely. Did it take its toll? Absolutely. The number of times that I have spent alone by myself, crying, screaming, in complete overload. There were times as a teenager I couldn't go into crowds. I couldn't, there were so many things that took so much work for me to be able to process, and it had so many negative repercussions that no one ever saw because I was really good at keeping it from being something that anyone ever saw. So my feeling, because that's what I experienced, I feel like maybe a lot of other people are experiencing that for different reasons in different ways. And so why not make it a space where none of us has to? Where you can just say honestly to each other, hey, I need an extra hour for that, or I'm not fully understanding this, or that makes me really uncomfortable. I'm someone, I can't eat in front of people. I just have to be honest. Like, I don't know why I have a thing on that. So, you know, and just being able to say like, that makes me not have fun. And I know it's your fun, but it's not fun for me. And, you know, and really, give ourselves that room. Now, in terms of, I felt horrible because in terms of, is that a reality in most spaces? No, it's not. Do we sometimes need that doctor? Like, do a lot of bosses and so forth need that doctor's note? Yeah, they ask for it. You can still advocate for yourself. You can still say what your needs are. No one needs to understand why. You can ask for that. I can't promise you'll be given it, but I'm all for, let's keep asking for that and telling people that we need spaces where that's available.
Yeah, agreed. I think, and for that person who's the biggest thing that made a difference for me at the very least is just treating myself the way that I deserve to be treated and giving myself the accommodation that I need. Sometimes I just, you know, you take it. If you need it, take it. If you need the time, I do this when I travel to the conventions and stuff like that. A lot of the times, those big panels, I'm out in the back taking a breather, having some space, taking a moment because I can't handle it. And I think the thing that helped me the most is accepting that it's okay for me to take those things, take what I need, to buy the headphones that I need. You're not taking them away from somebody else, just like we were talking about in the beginning. Me buying noise canceling headphones isn't going to stop another person from getting them. Your accommodations are valid no matter what they look like.
And with my MS, it's something I had to learn was, I don't need to explain to everyone why I need something. Like, it would, if I had to explain to every minute of the day, like, I can't carry this because the pain I have in my arm and blah, blah, blah. Like, it would be like just painstaking for everyone to know like every physical thing that I'm experiencing. And I realized like, oh, I could just bypass that and just say, hey, can you do such and such? Because I'll mess it up. And you know, if we like are just able to communicate to each other that way, we don't need to explain that's because of this reason or that reason. It's just, hey, this is what I need. And hopefully we trust each other to give that thing that we need.
Yeah. Agreed. So we're about a little less than 20 minutes out. I want to make time to have people come in and ask questions. So if you have a question that we didn't get to, which is a lot, y'all were prepared, please go ahead and raise your hand. Wow, people already, they were ready. And we'll have people, we'll have my promoter go ahead and promote the first person in line, which is Rebecca, looks like, on my screen at least. It's the part where we wait awkwardly.
Kim, was there anything that you really, really wanted to say that you haven't gotten
Yes.
it?
Another way for people who want to help, like, how can I help? There's a lot of how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? And the concept of help often implies, how can you change me? How can you make me more comfortable? How can you? That has never been the case for me. How can you best help me is by not taking things personally. Don't make assumptions about my intentions. Oh, she did that and she knew she hurt my feelings. She knows that this is my second. When people assume my intentions, they're almost always wrong. So not taking the things I do personally, and when something I do does have a consequence on you emotionally, telling me, not assuming I know it, and not assuming, that's the other thing, not assuming I'm responsible for your feelings. I care about your feelings, but one of the biggest things I'm doing in my life is no longer making your feelings my job. So please don't you assume your feelings are my job. I care about your feelings and I will do everything I can to show up for your feelings, but they're not my job anymore.
I love that. Yes, a free act that I always try to give to, especially to any friend, I tell them ahead of time, I'm like, if I'm upset, I will tell you I'm upset. Like, don't try to read into something I do and think that that means that, like, no, that's probably I was busy and I forgot to call back or whatever it was. But like, I promise when you do something that offends me, I will say that you offended me. And I would love if we could all do that for each other, because
Nice.
trying to like read into each other is really a lot of energy.
Yeah, man.
Right. Sorry, I got booted out for a second for some reason. I was like, I'm gone. Anyways, hi, Rebecca. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hi, sure. So I am actually a teacher of early childhood students aged 3 to 5, and my class is what's considered in my state a cross-categorical special needs class. So I have students with, physical differences, cognitive differences, and also lots of kids who are on the autism spectrum, ADHD, emotional behavior disorders. And I guess my question is for children that young who are just discovering themselves, let alone discovering that, they may not think the same way or need the same things that somebody else does. And also I have so many parents who are so resistant to their children being different. How can I kind of test or not test, that's the wrong word, but like put forth like, accommodations and modifications in a way that they can see what works best for them, that their parents are going to be willing to accept, if that makes sense. And also kind of just, I guess, like any 3 to 5-year-old, show them how the world works and how they can fit into it in a way that is special for them.
Great question. I'm gonna throw this to Kim.
Oh, Lord.
One of us children.
Again, back to my own experience. I've had people say, oh, my friend's kid is clearly autistic. You need to tell them. Nope. Not your job. It is not your job.
Well, that's the problem, because I'm the teacher and it kind of is my job, because I have to offer these. Well, no. Legally, I'm not allowed to tell them their child is autistic. But I do have to write an IEP and offer them accommodations that are going to help them. So I guess my question is, how do I frame that in a way that's acceptable without, and I know, some people hear a diagnosis and freak out.
I certainly cannot answer that. My experience is that denial is not a chosen coping mechanism. Parents are not choosing to not see their child's difference. They are incapable of processing it. So forcing it on them before they're ready is something that seems like it might benefit the child, but it's not really an option. So I was the one who was convinced my daughter was autistic, and nobody else would believe me because she was so social. But her preschool teacher, fucking amazing. She was a punk rock Mary Poppins. And she pointed out behaviors that were inconsistent and might be a result of anxiety. So if you see a kid functioning within a coping mechanism, saying, I notice when she's deprived of autonomy, like PDA is a big one that gets like beaten into submission and traumatized. But like when this child is deprived of autonomy, they respond in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, explaining in general terms without defining anything, being like, this here is consistent with a fawning response, which is actually an anxiety response, as opposed to being nice or compliant, because it always comes after they've had a meltdown, they've insulted, so being specific with the behavior and saying it is consistent with something that I notice happens, being able to bring the receipts, and then speaking without judgment, because within that, just the word anxiety will trigger parents into going, we're not bad. And it's like, fuck. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn are anxiety responses. I notice she tends to over compliment an adult after she has stolen a toy from a child. that is consistent with the need to equalize her own emotional regulation. It takes a lot of fucking work to use all the words, but coming from a place without. And then with the kids, that's the good news. Kids are only programmed to discover themselves. And so if you're just like, oh, I noticed that seems to be this impulse. Is that correct? Well, okay, let's find a way to, I tell my daughter, and we will always find a way to get what you need. Always. Your need will always be met. Sometimes you think the way to meet the need is by clocking somebody with a brick. That may not be the most effective way to meet your need, but helping them identify the need versus the impulse, something I'm still working on at 54, but it's definitely something that has helped my kid, where I'm like, what is it you want? And why do you think scaring the dog is going to get it? And often they don't know, but just helping pull those two apart is a great skill for any human to have.
Yeah.
Does that help a little bit?
And I just want to say,
Sorry, it does. You gave me some language for my next IEP meeting with a parent, so thank you.
and I just want to say I could not admire you more. Like, I really, the work that you're doing is so important and amazing and wonderful. And I wish I had more specific advice, because I think it is, I feel a lot of empathy for you, because there is, on the one hand, you know, you want to take in the emotional truths that Kim is talking about for the parents and everything, but you've also got a bureaucratic system you're working within, and you've got to handle that just so I'm not sure exactly what the balance point is, but I did notice in the chat that there are some people like at Coffee Cup Books who say they have some resources that if you need help, that they might be helpful, because I would imagine it's a very specific and very delicate thing that you've got to balance out. How do you fill out the correct forms to get the correct needs met, and at the same time not do what's going to be emotionally triggering. And Kim, I just want to acknowledge that you're so much better at assuming the parent viewpoint as well than I am, because it's a point where I lose empathy when parents are not handling seeing their child and leaving room for their child, and especially when they take it on as their own personal battle or whatever. I'm like, what are you doing? Your child is beautiful and wonderful and perfect, and let them be in the world. So yeah, I taught for a little while, and I was not as patient with the children. Like, the children I was totally patient with, I was not as patient with their parents. So I admire that, and I think that's something to strive toward.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Say bye to Rebecca and bring in our next person. Yeah, we talked about the parent thing in our pre-meeting. That came up.
It's a trigger of mine.
Can I have a quick, while you're bringing somebody in, I just glanced over, Joanna is dealing with a child that has physical expression of dysregulation. And my daughter also, I have been through that. And so the physical expression, first of all, I had to learn to walk away at a 6, to stop the demands. It doesn't matter because if I don't stop before it reaches that point. But when they're 9, they're still working things out. So finding what other sensory input my daughter responded to was really important. She used to lash out physically. She also self-harmed. And we learned that olfactory stuff. We just went into perfume stores. We went into like a oovy groovy bunch of oils, and was like, what smells do you like the most? And she got to pick the smells and put them on rags. So when she felt herself getting dysregulated, she just breathed the rag. And interestingly enough, she picked lavender and lemongrass, both oils that are supposed to be good for anxiety response. So finding other responses and encouraging the kid to get that need met, but also recognizing when I need to step away, because when Tabby just goes, I need a minute, but I'm in my, I need an answer right now because I'm feeling anxious and deregulated, I will absolutely push. So I'm not accusing you, Joanna, of pushing. I'm just saying that I had to recognize where I could step back and where I could introduce other sensory input.
I absolutely love that. And it reminded me something that we've talked about a lot, but I think it's just a general life necessity is to let go of our preconceived notions of what we think life should look like and enjoy our life as it's coming. I know that for getting through with my MS as well, that's been the biggest difference, and the thing I'm most addressed with people is you gotta let go of that. Like, my life was supposed to fit this certain idea that I have, because you will deny yourself so much potential happiness. And I think that's so necessary as parents. I think that's so necessary, and anything in our life is to let go of this idea of what we think something should look like, and just listen and be in that moment, because there's so much joy to be had. So
Great. Hi, Anna, welcome. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Hi, love.
Hello. So I have a mic here, so that.
Oh, you're like fancy. Look at that. Got a whole setup going
Yeah,
on.
I know. Bougie. How do you? I always feel neurodivergent, but I have no diagnosis and I have no idea how to say to anybody I feel different. And I already fight with depression, the anxiety, sleep problems. And how do you tell somebody something is wrong and something is just not right with me and I just need help? Because I always feel like I'm a burden to anyone who just tries to say something. And then they just wipe it off and just say, oh, it's nothing. How do you say something like, listen up, like, listen closely to what I try to say?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and probably something a lot of people here are struggling with as well. Kim, Rachel, do you want to have any advice?
I heard two questions there. So the first something, Maddie, you said something really important that I want to double back on is when I grew up, I was a train collision in my brain. So it was my belief that my well-being came from other people. So I would perform in a way that hopefully would please them, and then they would respond by meeting my needs and making me feel safe and worthy. That is bullshit. So what you said you did, Maddie, is you looked up, hey, one of the things I read that helps people are these earphones. I got them for myself. So separating my needs from other people's actions has been life-changing, because I am a powerful, present individual. Anna, you are so fucking powerful. You are so worthy of your needs being met.
yes.
And you don't have to waste time. I will come back to the second bit. You don't have to waste time asking other people to validate your needs or value your experience. That is fucking bullshit, because they're all invested in their own shit. So the first thing you get to do is look at What are some needs I have that are consistent with other people's, and how did they meet them? Maybe headphones, lavender, shifting up as you get to do that. Once you value and are starting to meet your own accommodations, then we can step out into the other world. How do I make people listen to me? We don't. We
That
can't.
helps a lot, Kim. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Love you.
It is not, I love you so much. You go towards where
And
the
Kim,
love
can I
is.
quickly add, I watch all your TikToks and you're my TikTok mom.
You're my baby. I am proud of you. And go to where the love, go find your community. Don't spend time
Yeah.
trying to make people into your community if they're not willing to hear you.
Yes,
Go.
that's what I was gonna say too. You can say what you need, figure it out for yourself, give it to yourself. And you might, and you can communicate to that to someone. It doesn't mean they're going to hear or listen. And maybe they're not the right person to be around. But if you have it firmly in your head that, hey, I want to be around people who listen. I want to listen to other people's needs. I will listen to other people's needs, and I want to be around people who will listen to mine. And decide that's the people you're going to be around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're coming up on, we are over the hour. So I will, oh, look at that. Representing. The last thing I do want to say for you, Anna, though, is
I
that
see you in May. I will see you in May, Kim, and then I'm gonna give you so much huggies.
Mwah, mwah.
yeah, and the last thing I just want to say to you is exactly what I just echoing, that when you find your people, you'll have found your people, and you will feel so much more secure in being yourself with the people that will allow you to be that. And that's worth waiting for. That's worth fighting for. That's the most, like, over the past year, the friends that I have made who accept me and my neurodivergence for what I am and who I am, that's changed me more than anything else has, is having people in your life that will accept you, and you will find it. You will find those people.
I think, and Megan McDonald said, how do you know? And I think just exploring the idea of what if. We don't have to have answers. None of us have answers. And especially when we've spent our lives being told by the world that the answers we do have are wrong. Just what if? What would feel good? What would feel nice? Give myself permission to dream. And then once my heart resonates with the feelings, go towards what matches the song that my heart started to sing.
That's how you find amazing friends.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, the most important part. Well, I am so sorry that we weren't able to get to everybody. Perhaps there will have to be a part 2 in the future. But I appreciate all of you for coming out, and Kim, thank you so much for joining us. This has been one of my favorite events that we've done so far, and based on all the feedback that I've already been getting, everyone else has seemed to have a wonderful time. So thank you for doing this. Rachel, thanks for doing this with me. I always love getting to do these, and hopefully maybe we'll see more of you in the future. But I'm gonna give you both a moment to sign off. So Rachel, I'll have you say bye first.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you, everyone who joined. Thank you for having this conversation. Thank you, Maddie, and thank you, Kim. Like, and this means so much. And let's dream of that world where we can all just communicate honestly and be who we want to be. And you've helped to make that a reality for me, Kim. So thank you.
I love you. I love you. I love you so much. I love you so much.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out, and we will see you at the next one, everyone. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.